Picture this. A mighty hero stands before a warrior queen on the deck of a ship, not as enemies but as potential allies. For once, strength alone won't win the day. This is the story of Hercules' ninth labor, where diplomacy replaces violence and where everything goes tragically, terribly wrong. In ancient Greece, heroes weren't just defined by their muscles or their courage. They were measured by their ability to navigate impossible situations, to face challenges that tested every aspect of their character. And sometimes, the greatest challenges weren't the ones that required a sword. Hercules had already conquered lions, hydras, and birds of death. He'd cleaned impossible stables and captured divine beasts. But his ninth task would be different. This time, he wouldn't hunt a monster. He'd have to deal with something far more unpredictable: other people. The labor began not with a king's command, but with a daughter's wish. Admeta, the princess of Tiryns and daughter of King Eurystheus, had heard tales of a magnificent belt worn by the most powerful woman in the world. She wanted it desperately. And what a spoiled princess wants, a hero must fetch. But this wasn't just any accessory. The girdle belonged to Hippolyta, queen of the Amazons, and it was a gift from Ares himself, the brutal god of war. The belt symbolized her authority, her strength, and her right to rule a nation of fearsome warriors. The Amazons were legendary. They lived near the shores of the Black Sea, in a land called Themyscira. These weren't ordinary women. They were warriors from birth, trained in combat, skilled with bow and spear. They lived without men, creating a society that defied every Greek norm. To the Greeks, they represented the wild, the untamed, the other. They were everything Greek civilization wasn't: independent, fierce, and utterly unconquerable. As daughters of Ares, war flowed through their veins. They didn't fear death, they embraced it. And Hippolyta was their greatest champion, their queen, their symbol of everything powerful and free. For this labor, Hercules knew he couldn't go alone. He gathered a crew of heroes, including the legendary Theseus, and they set sail across the Aegean Sea. The journey was long and dangerous. They traveled beyond the familiar coasts of Greece, into waters where monsters lurked and where the gods' influence grew strange and unpredictable. But Hercules had a plan. Unlike his previous tasks, he didn't intend to fight. He would try something revolutionary. He'd talk. When the Greek ships arrived at the Amazon port, something unexpected happened. There was no immediate battle. No arrows flew from the shores. Instead, Queen Hippolyta herself came to meet the famous hero. She'd heard of Hercules, of his strength and his divine parentage. She was curious. On the deck of her ship, Hercules and Hippolyta spoke. He was honest with her. He explained his situation, his servitude to Eurystheus, the 12 labors he must complete to atone for his crimes. He told her about the princess who desired her belt. And here's where the story takes its most surprising turn. Hippolyta agreed. She was impressed by his honesty, moved by his story. Here was the strongest man in the world, humbling himself before her, asking rather than taking. She respected that. She decided to give him the girdle willingly, as a gift from one warrior to another. It should have been Hercules' easiest labor. It should have ended with friendship and mutual respect. But the gods had other plans. Hera, the queen of Olympus and Hercules' eternal tormentor, watched from above with fury in her immortal heart. She'd orchestrated every obstacle in his path, every impossible challenge. She couldn't let him succeed so easily. She couldn't let peace prevail. So she descended to Earth and disguised herself as an Amazon warrior. She moved through the Amazon camp, whispering poison into every ear. She spread a terrible rumor. Hercules wasn't negotiating. He was kidnapping their queen. He planned to take Hippolyta as a slave. The Amazons believed it. Why wouldn't they? Greeks had always seen them as conquests, as prizes to be won. Their entire existence was defined by resistance to male domination. Of course, a Greek hero would try to steal their queen. Within minutes, the Amazon warriors mounted their horses. They grabbed their weapons. They charged toward the Greek ships with fury in their eyes and vengeance in their hearts. Hercules, still on Hippolyta's ship, saw the attack coming. He saw armed warriors thundering toward him, weapons raised, screaming for blood. In that instant, he made a terrible assumption. He thought Hippolyta had betrayed him. He thought their entire conversation had been a trap, a way to lower his guard before the slaughter. In the chaos and confusion, in the heat of perceived betrayal, Hercules acted on instinct. He killed Hippolyta. The queen who'd been willing to help him, who'd seen him as an equal, died by his hand. He tore the girdle from her body as the battle exploded around him. The fight was brutal. Amazons fell, Greek heroes fell. Blood stained the decks of ships and the shores of Themyscira. Hercules and his crew fought their way back to their vessels and escaped across the sea, the girdle secured but the cost immeasurable. Hercules returned to Eurystheus and presented the belt to Princess Admeta. The labor was complete. But this victory tasted like ash. This myth carries meanings that echo through the centuries. The girdle itself was deeply symbolic in ancient culture. A belt represented virtue, boundaries, and authority. For a woman, it symbolized her autonomy, her control over her own body and destiny. By taking it, Hercules symbolically conquers the unconquerable, dominates the independent. But there's a deeper tragedy here, the failure of diplomacy. Hercules tried to do the right thing. Hippolyta responded with generosity. Yet external forces, represented by Hera but symbolizing rumor, fear, and mistrust, turned potential friendship into bloodshed. It's a painfully relevant lesson about how easily peace can shatter, how quickly assumptions can lead to violence. The myth also reveals Greek anxieties about the Amazons. These warrior women represented everything that challenged Greek patriarchal society. They were independent, powerful, and they didn't need men. By having Hercules take the girdle, the myth symbolically asserts Greek civilization's dominance over this alternative way of life. Yet there's something tragic in Hippolyta's death. She was willing to bridge two worlds, to see past cultural differences. Her murder represents the death of that possibility, the triumph of suspicion over trust. This labor teaches us that not all battles are won with strength. Some require understanding, patience, and communication. And it shows us how fragile those solutions are, how easily they can be destroyed by fear, by outside manipulation, by the inability to see each other clearly. Today, we still struggle with these same issues. We still let rumors destroy potential alliances. We still react with violence when we feel threatened, without stopping to verify the truth. We still fear and try to dominate what we don't understand. The ninth labor of Hercules isn't just about a hero and a belt. It's about the tragedy of miscommunication, the price of assumptions, and the eternal conflict between different ways of life. It reminds us that sometimes, the real monsters aren't the ones with claws and fangs. Sometimes, they're our own fears and prejudices, whispering poison in our ears.